Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's show we're going to go over a swimmer, we're going to go over a surfer, we're going to go over a diver, and we'll finish out the show today with, I guess we'll call it, No Good Deed Goes Unpunished. Stick around, going to be a good show. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We're going to head over to Samurai Island, and that is over in Papua New Guinea. The date on this attack is July 27th of 1960. John Klaso, he is 24 years old, and he and a friend are out doing some spearfishing. That's in the afternoon, and the water is clear reportedly. And John is out on the water spearfishing, and his buddy ends up heading in. Who knows why his buddy went heading in, but John stayed out there. He was about 100 yards from shore in 12 feet deep water, and like I said, it was clear water, and he says he saw a fish below him, and he started going after that fish. He might have wanted to spear it. And when who knows how deep he was, and he was attacked by a shark that came up and bit him in the right arm. And he also had a jagged wound going across his chest. Could be open mouth after it bit his arm, teeth scraped across his chest because there's no back. It's not like he was bitten. It sounds like the teeth scratched, lacerated him. Sounds like from the shoulder all the way down to his hip. So he had very bad wounds. He made his way in. He waded his way into the shallow water. And when he got into the shallows, they say that he was standing there and he was trying to put on his shorts, and he collapsed. And his buddy took him and they got him in. He ends up surviving. The shark bit off his right arm, about 6 inches, left a stump of about 6 inches on his right arm, took that off, and like I said, he had that jagged cut across his chest. So I do believe that they went ahead and amputated the rest of his arm, so it bit it off down 6 inches, and it was probably in mangled shape to begin with for them to go ahead and amputate the rest of it. It was probably a long recovery just to get out of the hospital in this situation. I didn't hear much about the jagged wounds down his chest. They didn't identify the shark or say how big the shark was. But to be going after him like that, it's probably a decent shark and big enough for our stats. We're going to put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. We just don't know what kind of shark, and could be anything, and just being so far off of shore, a bull, a tiger, or something. Got a hold of him, and luckily he survives the attack, and we will move on. Okay, before we get into this the next attack of the video, I wanted to bring up the attacks that were sent to me. Two of them by Ali, and we'll go over those real quick. One of them is a young man out surfing with a friend, I believe it is, and I think he took a wave part of the way in, and then he was waiting on a wave, or they were paddling to catch a wave, and a shark came up, bit him in the foot. I believe they said it was about a 4 or 5 foot tiger shark, so it's going to end up being smaller than our stats, and I don't know whether we'll cover it when it comes up, because a lot of the shorter ones, smaller fish, some of them I don't cover because there isn't much that goes on. Usually a bite and shake, and then they leave. Multiple bites with smaller sharks I'll usually go ahead and cover. So we'll have to see what happens there, but it looks like one that we won't bother with, just like, it is a tiger shark, but it's kind of like the normal black tip attack over there at the New Smyrna Beach there. And then the second attack Ali sent me was a fishing accident, actually, and the people had caught, I think the son had hooked a great white shark, and not a small one. It looked like about a 10, 11 footer that he had caught. And he was trying to take a picture of it. Now, I don't know whether they were on the boat. Like I said, I just read through these real quick to see what happened. And I don't know whether it was on a boat or they brought it in to shore. I would think it was on a boat, but I don't know. But he's standing there and he's going to take a picture with us. And like I said many times, these sharks can fold themselves almost in half. You're not safe if the shark is alive and you're next to the thing. It can turn and bite you probably wherever you're at, unless you're on its back. Which is not the case. Shark turns, bites him in the leg. So he's standing there to take a selfie, and a la the woman that picked up the little lemon shark to take a picture over in that natural reserve or whatever, maritime sanctuary that got all those fines. Same thing, trying to take your selfie with the shark. Now, that confuses me too, because once you see that you have a great white shark, you should be clipping that line. They are protected. They're protected just about everywhere. And that means 200 miles from the shore of the lands that protect them, which is almost all. And then they're protected in international waters and have been long before there was ever the coastal coverage from individual countries. So you really should clip that line. You do not want to knowingly catch and reel in a great white. I mean, they're protected species, and you could probably get in trouble for doing it. I would think they'd be lenient the first time you do it, but you should know they're protected, just like other sharks that are protected. As soon as you see them, you should just get rid of them. So that's the second attack. And now the third thing I was sent was from Betsy Sloan, and that's who had interviewed me in my only interview since I've been doing the show, with chatting with Betsy. A couple of years back now we've done that interview. But she sent me just a real quick, it's like a real quick short. And you can go ahead and YouTube to find this, but it's crazy. I click on it and I'm watching, and this guy is standing there and they got cool music playing to it, and he's got his gear and he's throwing gear into the water. He's standing on a jetty, a pier jetty, maybe 20 yards out, and throwing stuff into the water, and then he throws his board into the water, and then they show him in the water sitting on the board with a fishing rod. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Then you see a big dorsal fin coming along, and sure enough it grabs his bait, and now this guy is surfing, standing up surfing with his fishing pole with this huge great white shark, probably a great white shark, dragging him through the waters. It's crazy to see, and it's only a very short clip, only takes a minute, but what a crazy video. So I wanted to get through both of those, let you know about those things. And I think those are the only attacks that I was sent that I know of. The boy with the fishing incident, that, and then that other guy. But there might be another one, and if there is, I'll update it in the next show, but we'll continue. Okay, we're going to head over to Glen Ashley, and that is over in South Africa. And the date on this attack is January 17th of 1978. Laurence Evans, he is 17 years old, and he and a friend are out doing some surfing. It's about 12:45 in the afternoon. He's got himself 100 yards from shore. He says him and his friends see, they're in 10 feet deep water. He says him and his friends see a wave coming up, and they both start paddling for it, and that's when he felt pain to his foot, a real quick bite to his foot. He says by the time he turned around, it was just in time to see the head disappear underwater, and you know, he knew it was a shark then, got his way in. He gets in and he goes to get his foot taken care of, and it was just a bite to, I believe, the right foot. But he had lacerations, minor lacerations, it says, to the foot, but there was bones broken. So the bones might have stopped the teeth from going in very deep, and it is your foot. And they do think this was, you know, about probably a 6 foot or so blacktip shark, or narrow-toothed requiem shark, and a tiger shark is a requiem shark. I'm not sure what other species are in that group yet, because I haven't looked into that very much yet. But so it turns out it's probably just the black tip that got a hold of him, but broke 2 bones, and it severed a tendon, and he was unable to move 2 of his toes. So again, you got a situation where you've been bitten in the foot, you're sitting there, you're having your fun, you're out there surfing, and in 1 second, you're bitten in the foot, and you go in, you can't move your toes, tendon's been severed, you're lucky that the foot is not more damaged than it is, you got 2 broken bones, and that's pretty much best case scenario in that kind of a situation. In a 1 second bite, these people stick their arm in there and all of a sudden they're missing a chunk, or they got a chunk hanging. This kind of a bite, it's just not worth it to me. I mean, it's just me, and I know how rare, and I know, but the problem is what it does when it happens. And that's just a little black tip that really doesn't, you know, it's not a man eater. It's usually not gonna kill a person, and usually when they bite, it's usually on surfers, and it's in the surf. I don't know that I've even heard of black tips really attacking out in the open ocean. So that's the attack on Laurence Evans, an attack, not an attempt to date. Probably a black tip shark, most likely of size for our stats. So we're going to put Laurence in. Okay, now we'll head over to Fitzroy Island. That is over in Queensland, Australia, off of Queensland, Australia, and the date on this attack is June 27th of 1954. Morslem Aken, he is 30 years old, and he is out and he's diving. He's pearl diving off of a ship, off of a large boat. It's not some small boat, it's a large boat. And he's pearl diving off of it in 20 feet deep water. And it's 4:30 in the afternoon. It doesn't say how far from shore he is, but you know, the island is 18 miles off of the mainland of Australia. But he's diving in there, and they say that when he surfaced from one of the dives, a large shark, 8-foot shark, came up and first bit him, came up behind him. So it charged him and bit him in the shoulder. So he's got a bite to the shoulder, and it doesn't sound like it let him go because he had to fight it off of him. So he's fighting the shark off of him, and he manages to stop that attack, and it says that it came at him a second time, bit him in the arm. And they finally get him up onto the ship, and he survives the attack. He gets in, takes 40 stitches to do up his wound, so it's an 8-foot shark. That sounds like a pretty decent sized wound for the shoulder and the arm. But the arm, the bite mark to the arm, it scratched. 2 of the teeth scratched the bone. And ooh, that just sounds painful. I know you probably can't feel that unless you break a bone, but I mean, scratching a bone, it sounds painful. So he's lucky to survive this attack. You know, being next to ships like that, you're always going to have that chance that a shark is going to come see what food is under there. And if a shark is coming to see what food is under there, it's a hungry shark. And I think that's what happened with Cameron Robbins when he jumped off of that cruise ship. Same thing. So an attack, not an attempt. Well, yeah, an attack, not an attempt to predate. 8-foot shark, it just isn't identified, so that's how Morslem Aken will go into our stats. We'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over real quick to St. Lucie Inlet. That is over in Florida. The date, November 22nd of 1960. Sarah Sargent, she is 51 years old. She is with a gentleman named Harry. They're on a 16-foot boat, and the boat overturns in the inlet. And although Harry's rescued, she disappears. She most likely drowned. She's not going to go on our attacks as a shark attack. But when her remains were found, somebody found her and brought her up on a beach and dragged her all the way up onto a dune. And it was shark scavenged, and not just a single shark. I mean, sharks had at the body, so much so they said that the only way that they're going to identify this body is by dental work. So it sounds like a Jaws case where, you know, that first girl that was eaten in Jaws and she's in like a little pile there. That sounds like what happened to Sarah Sargent. Most likely after she had drowned. You know, boats flipping over, you can really easily get knocked out in the process, and you have no hope. You can't breathe if you can't be awake and try to stay out of the water. So I would say that's probably most likely what had happened, and we're gonna put it down in the attacks. And I'm gonna have to figure out. I think I'm gonna have to put a red line like on the columns that are actual, not attacks, where I think they're, you know, sea disasters are going to have those, because I don't want those included, because it's different than a shark coming up and attacking you. That's more of an opportunity thing, and that's what happens when a shark finds a body in the water floating. If it drowns, that's an opportunity thing, same thing. So we'll put it down as the, you know, not an attack, as a drowning, and we will separate it when we go through and do our stats updates in the near future here, probably in another couple, maybe a month or two, we'll be able to get back into it, because I want to be close to 1,000 attacks. When we get to it, that's the attack on Sarah Sargent, and we'll get to the last attack, at least the last unprovoked attack of the show. Okay, to finish off our unprovoked attacks today, we are going to head over to Green Turtle Cay. That is over in the Bahamas, and the date on this attack is July 23rd of 2016. It's Dr. Steve Cutbirth. He is a dentist, and he is out doing some spearfishing. He's about 20 minutes from shore. So if you're on a boat, that could be anywhere from, you know, a couple miles, somewhere around there, 2-3 miles. Unless you have a real powerful boat, then you can get a lot further out. But 20 minutes from shore is where he is, and he is diving, and he has just shot himself a hogfish, 10-pound hogfish, so a decent sized fish, and he has just fought it. So you know, you catch them and they probably drag you around a ways and you have to wait for them to tire and then you bring them in. Sounds like he brought it in, and he's swimming up to the surface now, and he feels this massive hit to his head. And he says that when he turned to his left, he could see the white underside of the jaw of the shark that just hit him in the head. So this shark head is there. Now he says this shark won't leave him alone. It's all over his head, knocked his mask off. And he's trying to get it off of him. He finally gets the thing away from him, and the thing comes back and bites him. I believe it's in the right leg, right around the knee. You can't tell how much damage is to the knee. It doesn't look like a severe bite, but it bit him one more time, and then it went on its way. He's able to get up onto the boat. He goes in. He ended up, his mask has a cut in it from a tooth. And they said this is a 6-foot bull shark, so one of those, you know, triangular teeth, smaller than this guy here though. But one of those teeth got in, and you can see the tooth mark cut to it, a cut and a little bit of a tear. And that was to his face mask. He also had a cut to his cheek, and that was done by the teeth of the shark. And when it blasted him in the head, it doesn't sound like it bit down on him, hit him with open mouth, or just hit him with the teeth in the side of the head, and then sat there and thrashed around at his head until he had to finally push it away, and it bit him in the knee. So he goes in, he gets fixed up. They said 6-foot bull shark, like I said. He says it was definitely after the fish, and I believe it was after the fish too. But you have 4 things that can happen when you're a spear fisherman and you have that fish. The first one we don't have happen very often in the attacks we've covered on spear fishermen, which would be the shark come up, see both you and the fish, and just go on its way without bothering you or the fish. The second thing is the shark can come up and grab that fish and take that thing away, and you're in good shape there. The third thing, and actually there's probably 5, but the third thing is you get bit as the shark is after the fish. So, you know, this is a shark that is just simply going for the fish. The fish is by your body and you're bit right by where the fish was. That happens quite a bit. Then you have where, and I believe this is the case with this attack and with a lot of these attacks, to where that shark wants that fish, but it ain't going to worry about that fish until after it deals with the bigger thing that it has to get out of the area. And that's what happened here. Shark went and bit him, not by accident, to get him out of the way so it could take that fish. It's his competition, I think. And I think that happens on a lot of these territorial attacks on spear fishermen. When the shark wants the fish is not necessarily by the person, but they get bit. Not to eat them. And then that's the last thing that could end up happening, is you run into one of those, like, you know, like we deal with the desperate, I think desperate, hungry sharks, and then you're in trouble, because it's gonna, unless you have a really big fish, you know, big tuna sitting there. I don't even think a 10-pound hogfish is gonna matter to a hungry shark. In that case, it might be looking at you to sustain itself till its next meal. So those are the things that can happen, and like I said, you know, this is one of those cases where I think it was territorial, attacking the bigger thing to get at its fish and take it on its way. That didn't say that it grabbed the hogfish and left. A lot of times after a person's bit, it'll grab the fish and try to swim off. The one guy shot it in the mouth with the spear, and it couldn't swallow the fish, and it just let go of the fish finally and went on its way after making another run at the guy. We covered that a couple episodes ago. So, you know, spear fishing comes with its a little bit of problems there, and not something I would be doing. So we will move on to the end of the show. Okay, now we're going to finish off the show with no good deed goes unpunished, and then after that we'll be done with all the sharks, and I'm going to tell a little story about one of the tickets I had. We'll have to get into my tickets, just this one crazy story. So when was this? This was over in Geraldton, which is over in Australia, and it was January 13th of 1960, around Christmas. He's out maybe diving, doing whatever he's doing, and the story is he saw Wobbegong, so one of those carpet sharks, and he's trying to get it out of a pot, a clay pot. It sounds like this Wobbegong went into a clay pot, and with the way that their heads are, kind of like a bull shark, they get bigger. I can see how it gets stuck, and it's probably a little guy, probably a little head to get into a clay pot like that. And he's able to free the thing, but after he frees it, the thing goes up his shorts and bites him in the thigh. So like I said, no good deed goes unpunished. Nobody wants a fish going up their shorts. It reminds me of, you know, horrible things that can swim up things when you're over in rivers in certain places. I don't want no fish swimming up my shorts. I'm sorry, that's just me. So that's it. That's the last attack for the show. Just one of those things where you're helping out a shark and it kind of pays you back, and he's lucky that it got him in the thigh and not somewhere else. I'd have to cringe. So that's the attacks for the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back in a few more days for another round of attacks. But until then, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you. Okay, now for the bonus, this is recent. This is 4 years ago, I think it is, and it's a Saturday. It's a nice day, and I'm in my car, and I have a blue. I might have had my Honda at that time, Honda Accord Sport, little thing with the stick shift, and I'm driving down the left lane. This is a 2-lane highway each way, and it's divided by grass, so it's a highway, and it's 70 miles an hour, and like I said, it's a Saturday. I'm just going over to see a friend. It's probably around noon. And I get in the left lane because there's a line of like 15 or 20 cars doing about 70 on a nose on the right side. And I want to do 80. So I get into that left lane and I start driving up. And about halfway up this line of cars, about 8 cars up, I run into this old beat up, what was it, Bronco looking car, but like a 90s Bronco, and it was white on top with rust and then brown on the bottom. The bottom ledge is like brown, a two-tone kind of car. So I'm behind this thing, and this guy is doing 73. So like I said, the cars on the right are doing 70. He's doing 73, and I'm on his bumper. I'm pushing. I'm pretty much pushing him along, and he will not speed up. So this is a peeve of mine. I'm not good with traffic. We get up, and finally, after minutes of this, being behind this guy, and this started at like 23 mile, and it's only going to end at 18 mile as far as the expressway. It's only 5 miles of expressway till it turns into Van Dyke, and we'll get into that in a minute. So we finally clear the cars, and he gets over, and the first thing he does is speeds up to 80. That gets on my nerves. I speed up to about 85, get in front of him, and flip him the first bird. So I've flipped off whoever's behind me. Now I haven't looked at who's driving. I don't care. That made me mad that you're going to hold me up and then you're going to get over and drive 80 after you just held me up at 73. That's against my rules. He got the finger. So after I flip him off, I can see out of my side view mirror, out of my periph, that he changed lanes and he is coming storming up next to me. Now I think this is a teenage kid or some punk. So as this Bronco, I can see, I'm not looking at him at all, and I don't know. I don't think I had sunglasses on. He did. I noticed at the end of this. He pulls up alongside of me, and I can tell that the car evens off with me, so I flip him the second bird. So I flipped him off twice now, and I am still driving. And now I get up, and I might have flipped him off a third time, I don't know. So it's 2 or 3 times I flipped this jerk off. That made me mad because he held me up. I get up, and like I said, the 2-lane expressway ends where Van Dyke Street starts, but Van Dyke opens up to like 6 or 7 lanes because a couple different highways are meeting in with it at the same time. So there's tons of lanes. Well, I'm in my little car and I love to drive, so I do a couple of lane changes, get away from this moron. And I look in my rearview mirror. And I'm like, well, damn, this guy can drive. He stuck with me. I've never had anybody, like in my trips to Florida, if I start moving through traffic, the people that are trying to use me as their rabbit, they're never seen again. So that wasn't the case with this guy. And I even said to myself, if I'm watching this, I'm like, damn, this guy's a good driver. So I'm at a light now, because there's a light right there at 18 Mile Road. So it turns green and I start driving. The first turnaround, because there's Michigan lefts, we call them. There's an island in the middle and you do these turnarounds to turn left. I see a SUV, a police SUV, come out of the left. I see a SUV off to the right of me, coming up on the right side of me, and I think I saw another one behind me too. And I changed lanes and did not use the signal. Boom, all their lights were on, and I had eight SUVs pull me over. I still don't know what's going on. I pull into a business that's off to the side there. I think it was a car lot, car dealership. I pull into their driveway, and that's when all the cars, almost all of the cars stayed on Van Dyke. So they were parking their SUVs on Van Dyke. So I have like 12 officers. I'm sitting in my car and I got 12 cops standing there, and in the middle of them all is this guy dressed up like he's in leather. He's in all this leather gear and his sunglasses and his, he had like a fro head. And then I knew what was up. So I asked him what seems to be the problem, officers, and whoever the spokesman was says, well, you know, we had phone calls of how you were driving back there. People were calling us, which I think is total bullshit. It was only 5 minutes between there, and the only one that would call was the guy I was pushing along, unless the other people were calling because I was pushing them down the road. So he says that happened. I was speeding, and I didn't use my turn signal when they pulled me over, and that I flipped off that cop. So now I'm mad. I look at him and I say, so you're pulling me over because I flipped him off? He says, well, no, we're pulling you over for all this other stuff. So he comes over, takes my license from it. Not the guy that I flipped off 3 times, but this other spokesman. So he takes my stuff back to the car. And let me tell you, I've been pulled over so many times. I've got 2 tickets when I was behind a cop, and we'll get into those in another story. So anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I gave him my stuff, and I'm waiting, and I'm expecting a book. I'm expecting them to hit me with everything. They gave me like a 9 over and a 79 and a 70, and that was it, and they let me go. I bet you if I wouldn't have mentioned that about, you know, that's why they pulled me over, is because I flipped him off, I would have gotten a stack of tickets. But I was not going to have it, and if I was thinking, I would have taken his name and said, hey, what are you doing chasing me in an unmarked car through traffic, you psycho? But I am pro-police, and I don't blame them for what they did. I was in the wrong in that one. And we'll get into other stories of my tickets, because what happens is a cop will say something that'll break my brain. And they do it right away, and I can't even function mentally because I'm sitting there wondering who would say something so stupid. So that's it. That's the entire show for today. And for all you that stuck around for it, hey, if you go into that water again, you are much more afraid of these sharks than they are of you.